Welcome back to For the Love of Men podcast. My name is Courtney Shand, and I'm hosting with my dear friend, Brianna Mosier. The intention of the show is to bring together men and women in harmony to create healthy, polarized relationship dynamics by learning how to honor each other's natural masculine and feminine energetic core. So before we dive in, Bri, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. But before that, I just want to let our friends know who maybe knew that we have a really exciting call coming up. So next week on May the 19th at 6 p.m. Central Time, we are co-hosting a group coaching call. I'm super excited about it because last week's episode was the question from our listener. We love listener questions. It charges us up and we love doing it together. So we wanted to create an opportunity for you guys to get access to both of us at the same time and thought, what better way than to do a group coaching call? So we would love to have you. This month, it's only $99, which is so amazing for 90 minutes of both of our eyes and hearts on your specific situation. We would love to invite you into that if that feels aligned for you. Anything else you want to add to that, Bri?
I am so excited about that. So you can come in and ask any question that's on your heart, you guys, and Courtney and I are going to work through it with you and ask questions. And we're going to cap it at 20 people just to make sure everyone gets support that they're looking for. And it will last up to 90 minutes. It's going to be great. Yeah. So we hope you can make it.
Yeah, I'm so excited about it. I just couldn't wait. Okay, so now for my new friends, Bri, tell them a little bit about yourself and why you're so cool and all the things that you're great at doing.
Wow, Courtney, thank you for that. I don't know about cool, but the work I do in the world is I help mostly female entrepreneurs start and scale their businesses and attract in healthy masculine energy partners. And really, by embracing their feminine energy, by coming home to their pleasure, to their body, somatic work. So all of those different modalities can open a woman up to receive more both in love and in business. And that is what I do in the world through masterminds and one-to-ones and programs and all the things. Mm-hmm. And Courtney, our work is very similar, but we have different flavors and ways of teaching. So tell the people what your magic is.
Yeah. I love helping women open up more of their feminine energy by learning how to master the art of harmonizing their own masculine energy in support of them. We clean up a lot of generational wounds that keep us playing small, keep us in our child energy, which is kind of my area of expertise, is getting a woman to be more fully expressed and more supported in her feminine energy, that empowered, juicy feminine energy, because her own masculine energy comes online. So again, kind of like Bri, it shows up in how we step into business, how we step into dating relationships, how we deal with our own body and take care of ourselves. All of that is going to be impacted by how our masculine energy is relating to us. So that is one of my favorite things to talk through with women, or to support them in activating. So that's what I do in the world, and I love it.
Yeah. I love that when we speak on masculine and feminine energy, we always come from the perspective of integration, right? Not about a woman is 100% feminine or a man is 100% masculine. In fact, that would be very unhealthy in both of our experiences. You want healthy integration in any human being of masculine, feminine energy. And so that's what we do. Not gender roles, not sex, none of that. It's masculine, feminine. And you could even take those terms away, and it's really just about being a healthy, whole person, you know. But we really love this lens of masculine, feminine, so that's where we teach from.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up the point this week. You guys weren't privy to our phone note conversation, but we were always voice noting each other throughout the week. But I love that you said that, of like, really, it's not about gender roles. It's about reclaiming what the energy is, so that it can be integrated in a healthy way and not be this kind of like posture or mask that gender roles become.
100%.
That was so profound.
Yeah, they really move us away from being our authentic expression of themselves, you know, and it's energy, not what you do. So I suppose, and especially, Courtney and I are both women in business. Like that alone defies a gender role, and we embrace our unique feminine energy in it to lead, which is breaking a norm again. So we love masculine energy, we love feminine energy. I could go on a tangent, but that's not what we're here for today. Courtney, what are we here for today?
Focus. Today we actually loved doing our TikTok. It was one of our most popular TikToks, was about bad dating advice and flipping that. And so kind of on the tail end of that, we wanted to give some underrated dating advice that is actually really solid and gets overlooked because it's not quite as polarizing or quite as sensational. So underrated dating advice. Give them an example, Brie. What does that mean? In your experience, what has been some underrated dating advice that you wish you had paid more attention to, or like that it landed differently when you were in the field?
Yeah, I'm going to start with my favorite one.
Yeah.
We have a little list for you all. I don't know how many we have, but we're going to go through them just in order of kind of how they came top of mind to us. And one of my favorites is understanding that outside support is required for a relationship to function in healthy ways for men and for women. And I was just I was telling Courtney before we got on this call, because we like to empty our baskets with each other. I was speaking to the person I'm seeing who was going through something this week and turned to the men in his life to get support. And of course, I was there and offered that support lovingly and all these things. And he certainly takes it. But he had expressed to me what already feels really true for me, which is there are times when I go to the women in my life and I need that loving support, that nurturing energy. And there are other times where I need to be with other men who understand my unique experience in the world and, the different unique experiences, societal pressures, whatever it might be, to walk as a man through the world that a woman might not know. And to be weak with other men and to be strong with other men. I recommend to all of my female clients when they're going through things with their partner who is a man, if they are dating in a heterosexual dynamic, that he's in some sort of men's group or that he has strong men in his world, because it's required, right, for a relationship to thrive. Just as a woman, I can't tell you how much I value, Courtney's usually my go-to person for this because of the work we do together, to be able to say to Courtney, I'm in my wounded, I'm freaking out, XYZ happened. Is it me? Is it him? I don't know. All my old stuff's coming up. Courtney, what do I do? Can you hug me? Can we talk about it? Right? And I get this like messiness out with Courtney, who doesn't judge me, who loves me unconditionally, who's like, girl, I've been there. Let me call you out on some bullshit and also get you back in an empowered place. And then I get the messiness out with her, where it's a safe space. And then I can go back to the person I'm seeing with groundedness and centeredness and clarity instead of spewing my wounds and reacting. I really just find so much value in having outside support, men's groups, women's groups. There will also be moments where I call my dad and get his perspective on what's going on in my partnership, or my brother. So many things, but I really believe that we're not meant to do relationship alone, that you get to have other people who you can vet and process to before you go process with the person you're having conflict with. And I also think it's important to have support with other feminine energy beings, other masculine energy beings, and cross-pollinate those things as well, so you get lots of perspectives and insight. What's your experience been with that, Court?
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I guess I would just clarify that, and this might be another topic later on, but this is different than being able to trust yourself. This isn't like polling the audience. What we're talking about is having kind of like laser specific support on not making your person your entire world, like allowing there to be a whole net of support behind you so that you actually do have this supportive force coming into the connection so that you're not scattered. There's a distinction here that I think needs to be made because it's a little nuanced, but I do find that it's so valuable to have support outside of the relationship because we do speak different languages. And sometimes you just need to speak in your native tongue to someone that understands that it's going to land with, so that you don't feel crazy, because it's very likely that, especially as women, that if you try to approach your man with information that hasn't quite been distilled, it's going to be more difficult for him to hear. This is not saying that he's incapable or not a good listener or any, it's not a reflection on him. It's just that there's too much. You know, like when we unload our week with each other, we joke, but it's like you're just standing here kind of holding the basket or holding the garbage can and just like get it all out, and then decide like, oh, actually I need to talk about my, you know, this with my partner. I need to go and fix this. Or, you know, you become more aware. You're able to use your self-awareness in a different way when you're able to process with someone else. So I think that's so powerful. And it also reminds me of the times when I have grown the most have been in groups of women. So the masterminds that I've been a part of, the coaching groups that I've been a part of, honestly have been so transformative, because I'm hearing other women who are in the trenches. I don't feel alone. I feel like I belong somewhere, which is a deep rooted need of all humans. And I don't feel like this is something that needs more shame. When we feel like we can belong, we actually can get to the root of where we are hiding from our self-truth. And that's where the transformation gets to happen, is we stop judging ourselves when we see ourselves in someone else in that same situation and can receive compassion. We actually get to open up a new part of ourself. And that's like, you know, strengthening your muscles at the gym. Like you're going to be able to push harder if you have someone spotting you, to push yourself to do more than you thought you could do, and to just kind of create that vacuum effect of like, hey, there's another level here for you, and I'm going to hold the space for you to rise to it, because I know that you're capable of it. You get to take that version of you back to your partnership and clean up whatever you need to, or just move forward with more integration and more power. That's been my experience.
So well said. I do think too, it's important to look at quality of support. Right?
Yes, this
Big
is good.
deal. You know, we want to be, my rule of thumb is always, when I'm asking this person for advice or to hold space, would I want that part of their life for my own? So, for example, I'm not going to ask someone for relationship advice who I know is in and out of toxic relationships, never takes accountability, and hates men, right? I wouldn't go to her and vent, because she's going to go, you're right, fuck him, all men are dogs, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not helpful. I want friends who are going to also call me out on my shit. I want girlfriends who will be like, I love you, and you are totally going into an old trauma pattern right now. Let's talk this out. Right? And I will say, I have, and Courtney being one of them, have really close girlfriends who are willing to say that in loving ways. Like, I love you, but this is not him. This is you. And I think a lot of women run into issues, probably men too. A lot of men or women run into issues when you ask people who can't give you an educated point of view, can't call you out on your shit, where they don't have the knowledge or skill set to help you navigate relationship. So if you're a man and you're asking other men for advice, you're wanting a relationship, and this is, let's say, I don't know, you're asking a friend who is playing the field, doesn't really respect women, doesn't take accountability, isn't very emotionally intelligent, and you're asking him for advice, he's probably just going to say, yeah, fuck her. Oh, move on. There's other fish in the sea. Like, they're not really going to help you dig deep and go, what's alive here for me to work on? And what am I learning in whatever conflict I'm bringing to the table? So there's that. Really look at, does this person have the skills to help me navigate this situation and also hold me accountable? And the other value of this, before I forget, for women and men in particular, I know you'll relate to this too, because we've talked about it just in our observations. When men have support outside of the relationship in men's groups, it keeps the girlfriend or the partner out of the therapist role. Yes. And women are so compassionate, loving, wonderful, understanding, and usually more drawn toward, in my experience, this does not have to be women all across the board, they're more drawn toward, oh, well, maybe that's his childhood trauma. Maybe he went through something difficult and I could help him through it and I could help him heal, right? And we're likely to bring that to the table. And if we're not careful, we can end up being a therapist to our partner, which isn't, it's not unhealthy because there is intimacy available there, but we want to be sure that we're not going so much into that role that you end up in a mothering dynamic, or not really believing in him or seeing him in his own empowered state that he can take care of himself and will figure it out. We can end up being a caretaker to our partner, which we don't want. And I don't think he wants either. He wants to be his most empowered self that can solve it on his own too. So men, when you get support from men that you trust and you admire and who are empowered in relationships, you're also keeping your woman out of a therapist role. That's not to say you can't come to her with those insights to build intimacy and share your heart. She wants those things. And there has to be balance. Make sense?
Yeah. What comes to me, and again, I'm not a man, so I don't know what it's like to go to men for support as a man. But I do know that what I find to be healthy intimacy is usually answered by the question of, what did I learn, or what can I reveal, instead of, sometimes you will be in the trenches. So I want to, I guess, clarify that, but there is a nuance to it of like, there's a lot of intimacy that is very healthy to say, you know what I realized today when I was talking through this with Bree, that I've been coming at you with a lot of projection, and I feel small in this specific instance, and I've been projecting that on you. Like, I want to clean this up. This is the intimacy that I want to build with my partner, not to continue the pattern of, you're not doing blah, blah, blah. That's where there's benefit to having outside help, is because you actually get the resolution to bring back to plant more intimacy in your connection. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you for expanding that.
Yeah. And I love that. Someone that we follow on Instagram, Dominic, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He's got awesome work, but he does say, don't make your woman your therapist. And I was like, yes, men need to understand that, because in a lot of ways we can make each other our therapist. And that creates a really codependent dynamic where I'm now responsible for your growth.
Yeah.
And it feels really good to the feminine, especially the wounded feminine, anyone, to be needed in that way. Feels very like adult-like, but it's not creating an adult to adult connection. It's actually creating a very sticky codependent relationship where I'm responsible for your growth, and I'm going to be doing more of the emotional labor than you are if I keep allowing that to be the connection point. So that's why having this outside influence is so helpful, because it keeps the connection clean and creates polarity where you're actually, and I talked about this with a client this week, of when you can stop crushing your partner with the expectations of who you want them to be from your child energy, you kind of release them to grow up and meet you adult to adult and like bring the best of yourselves together. And that's where the connection gets to happen and polarity gets to happen, where you get desire and turn on, and you're seeing them as their adult self, their most empowered self. And that's hot. That is like who you want to be with. I could talk about this all day.
So good.
Yeah.
Speaking of outside support, a great place to get outside support, May 19th, 6 p.m. Central. Come to our monthly call. If you're a man who wants a woman's heart and eyes on the situation, if you're a woman who wants support, we've got your back.
Yep. And it's so, I think that's so fun. I would love for a lot of men to come, because we know what it's like to be on the other side of you at different stages, and we can give some accurate reflection of what that feels like and maybe help you clean it up before you get into that point.
100%. Yeah, we're really excited about working with men. We're developing a men's program. We love men. We want to help men win with women. We want women to win even more with men because of it. And themselves. Okay. Point number 2.
Point 2. What I was saying of, don't try to be each other's everything. When you become the therapist, mother, parent, provider, support system, confidant, all of those things can be really beautiful, but you can't be each other's everything, which means that we need to have those spots filled by either other people or other places of community out in the world.
Mm. Yeah, so true. So true. When we talk about the masculine energy, we often say, so sometimes women have this idea that the woman should be the number one priority in his life. We think that the relationship has to come first.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, and he's putting you first above all else, including his purpose, you've now flipped the polarity. You're actually leading the relationship as the woman, because he's centering his whole world around you. So if your mind changes, needs change, then he shifts, right? That's not to discourage healthy change in communication, of course. But what we want is for the masculine to have his purpose first, his drive in life, his purpose, what he feels like his soul was meant to do here. And women have masculine energy too. So I encourage women to also put their purpose first. And this is, I think, even more tempting for women to put the relationship first because we're so wired for connection. But when a woman does that, that's when she enters a lot of codependent dynamics and her happiness ends up being on him. So a skill that I had to learn in my season of being single was how to fill myself up and be focused on my purpose first. And then the relationship is like this added benefit, but I have a whole complete, beautiful life full of friends and fitness and passions and hobbies and my business and personal development and spirituality that have nothing to do with this relationship. So I always tell women, if you are in the center and you have whatever it is, 9 planets around you, fitness, family, friendships, career, business are all different planets. The relationship is one. That way, if that relationship ends, I don't care if you've been married 50 years, your life still goes on and you're living for more than being with this person. It's an unhealthy expectation. And it's not fair to that person if you're saying you're responsible for my happiness. That's too tall of an order. We can't be responsible for each other's happiness. We have to make ourselves happy. And then that person can come in and be an added bonus and synergistic to it and a catalyst to it, yes, but not responsible for it.
Such a good point.
Mm.
Ooh, such a good point, because that will definitely keep you out of unhealthy dynamics if you know that this is just one part of my life that needs to be tweaked instead of my entire world is crumbling.
Yep.
What you were saying about that of relationships being the center of our universe, we think we create that codependent dynamic with our men because we operate in that style of relating that, like, well, I would make you the center of my world. Why are you not bending to every whim of mine? And when you start asking yourself that of like, well, I would do it, why aren't you doing it? You're pulling the control strings at that point, in my experience.
Yep. I see what you're saying. We're projecting the way that we relate onto them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ooh, so good. Which kind of flows into naturally the getting to know what you need to keep your cup full. Like, what are the planets that need to orbit around you for you to feel supported enough as the sun goddess of your universe? Like, you do get to be the center of your universe. That is fair. That is your kind of life around you. You get to decide what needs to orbit around you in order to be the fullest, brightest version of you. You don't have to dim that down, but you have to know what's orbiting around you and what you need to have orbiting around you. And if you need to be making tweaks to, actually, I'm not happy with my body, I need to focus on that planet and getting that one in healthy rotation, or maybe I need to focus on my friendships and clean that up so that I get to bring more to the relationship planet. I love that metaphor. But you actually get to pour more into your relationship when you bring happiness from all these other planets, all these other little orbits. It's not pulling so much on the relationship for happiness. It's actually providing more happiness to the relationship.
It's so true, because you come back full and nourished and you can give your best. Yeah. And when we don't have purpose outside of the relationship, I think it's a natural human tendency. In my experience working with clients, if either the man or the woman isn't grounded into their purpose, they tend to go, well, who can I pour into then? And they start centering their whole world around the relationship. And it ends up in very unhealthy patterns. A lot of codependency, a lot of enmeshment, a lot of making the other person responsible for your happiness. It just gets messy. So as much as you can, like create this big, beautiful, full life for you and let your partner be a cherry on top.
Mm-hmm. That's such a good point. And I do think the skill with that I have had to learn, and I'm always learning at new levels, is that you have to be okay in doing things alone. Like there has to be a certain amount of autonomy and freedom that you give your partner to go fill up their own cup. You know, because we said we don't want to be each other's everything, which means that you have to have freedom to go fill up your cup. If you need friend time, I can't keep you from friend time if that is going to enhance you being the best version of you for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's to service to me for you to have that freedom and not try to like restrict your partner from getting their needs met elsewhere if that's not something that you are choosing to do. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I'm saying that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let them fill up their cup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It reminds me, my grandpa taught me last year, we were having a conversation and he said, um, you have to be willing to make yourself happy. These are like kind of like rules of life kind of thing. Like you have to make yourself happy, but you can't do it at the expense of someone else's happiness. And that really landed for me of I can't get in the way actively of someone else going after their happiness, but I also can't postpone my happiness for the sake of other people, business, job, boss, partner, kids. Kids are different, but that needs to be my priority too. And that really cleaned up a lot of things for me. So hopefully that's helpful to hear too.
Can you say it again? Say the quote again.
Yeah, that I have to be responsible for my own happiness, but it can't be at the expense of someone else's. Meaning I can't impede someone else from going after their own happiness in the same way that I can't let other people keep me from taking ownership of what I need to be happy.
Yeah, honoring someone else's alignment, what's aligned or not aligned for them in that moment.
Yeah,
Even
and seeing it that way felt clean of,
Courtney and I both, when we take one-to-one clients or group clients, we spend a lot of time working with people on creating their own sense of sovereignty and inner security and inner safety for all these reasons, because it's so easy. You grew up watching rom-coms and reading 17 and believing you have to be each other's everything, that we have a lot of undoing to do. I know personally it took me a while to get to a solid space where my world didn't crumble when my need wasn't met or that person I was seeing wasn't available, whatever it might be. And when I was talking to the person I'm seeing the other night, who was like, I just needed to be around men. I was like, yeah, I get it. He was like, what? What do you mean you get it? I was like, I just get it. It's different. You do need to be in groups of men. There's something that being with a woman can't give you that being with other men will. And I respect that. I'm glad that you know that. Like, go do your thing. I don't think Brie 5 years ago would have gotten it. She would have internalized it as, I can't be his everything. And now I'm like, yeah, great. I'm glad you're not making me everything.
Right. Oh, how funny. So you were able to flip it from like, I'm not enough somehow by not being his everything to like, whew, thank God you're getting this in other places. So I don't have to be the sole source.
Right. Well, I think a lot of, I'll just say women, because that's been my experience, maybe men too, think they have to be the only confidant for the man. And that like we have to be his sole emotional connection. At least that's a lot of what I was socialized with years and years ago. Was that what your experience was too?
You know, it's funny hearing you say that. I'm literally like just thinking through. Yeah, I do think that in a lot of ways it was subtle. It wasn't like overtly taught, but it was because you. Fortunately, my dad's really good at. He's always had a group of men that he still meets with them. Like 20 years later, they have breakfast every Thursday, and I'm always like, Dad, that is so cool. I didn't realize what a gift that was. But yeah, that is like their purpose, is to meet together and call each other out and work through things that are hard. And I'm like, man, that is so cool. But I do think that a lot of ways, like women being this like safe space for men, it can get really sticky because especially the more we teach women how to be safe listeners for men, the more likely they will actually fall into the therapist role. And so it takes a lot of integration of your masculine energy to hold your boundaries of what you need and can handle, to not create that relationship dynamic, even from a really good place, because it's just so natural for you to be the compassionate listener. Like, oh, yes, 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 I can do this, is just encouraging, like, oh, she wants more, she wants more, she wants more, instead of like keeping that solar system, like you talked about, in play of like, oh, I still have my guy friends. I still need to go play ball with them. I still need to have coffee with them. I still need to, invest in relationships with men in my family, or, whatever that looks like. I do think there is. So to answer your question, I do think the men in my immediate world have actually been modeling that for years for me. And so that is kind of the expectation that I grew up with. If anything, it was that they would go to their man friends. So
That's great.
yeah. Yeah.
I think
Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, they did pretty good with that. Yeah.
And it's so nuanced, and probably something you and I would teach more in courses, or like really working with people in, not in a gatekeeper way. It's just everything is so contextual. People are so individual. Yes, there's general masculine, feminine tendencies, but we're also human with very different experiences, trauma, all these things. So you can't box people in. But it's so nuanced to learn how to hold space. I'll just say woman to man, for a woman to learn to hold space for a man's emotions, and yet still be seeing him as his most capable, empowered self, and not holding or taking on the problem yourself. And this is a skill set over time. So this is kind of, for me, that's the difference between being in the therapist role versus being an empowered partner in a polarized, yummy relationship.
Yeah.
Can you hold space, listen, let him reveal his heart and what's going on, and trust him that he's going to handle it, and give your advice when it's asked for, And there's a lot of intimacy there too, but not taking it on as your own and trying to fix it, because that doesn't feel good either.
Yeah. Not good.
Yeah.
Not fun. I mean, you want to flip polarity fast. Try that.
We're not discouraging that we're not saying don't share with your partners or be intimate. We're just saying that there are healthy boundaries and ways to create intimacy that don't make things messy and enmeshed.
Yeah. And actually, I'm really glad that we're talking about this, because even I think the awareness is something that people don't typically come to that dynamic with. Like if I had known that by continuing to behave that way, I would be creating X, Y, and Z, I probably would have hopefully responded with a little bit more awareness, of actually, I'm going to go to a girlfriend right now because it's probably not going to get what I need from this sharing with, like it's just probably not the right dynamic to share with.
Yeah. Yep.
And then come back later and share that with them. I think that is really fun and clean, and yeah.
There'll be moments of working through the messy together, and that's all. And there'll be moments of, I went and worked it out here, and here's what I found. Both build intimacy.
Yep. Thank you. Yes. Thanks for summarizing that.
Sure.
Yeah. Anything else that you are thinking about this?
Let's check our list here.
Yeah, I think we covered it.
Oh, I think we covered it too. Underrated dating advice. Just a quick nod to women love it when you plan and ask good questions. I'll say it till the day I die.
Agreed. I agree. Yep. Ask good questions and plan.
We love a plan.
Summary of all of our podcasts.
An easy 3-pointer. Plan the date.
I love it.
So, okay, cool. I feel complete around this. Do you feel complete?
Yeah. Well, actually, one last thing that's coming up is I do think that this gets to create even more practice area for you, because it can also clean up the breakdowns that have happened in same gender, I'm going to use gender here, circles. Like, for example, a lot of times the sisterhood wound or the ways that men have betrayed other men in the past that keep us from reaching out to safe and trusted people that do have similar experiences with us. This can be a really great opportunity to challenge yourself in that way. I know we've talked about it before of the sisterhood wound can be really painful and can keep a lot of women isolated. And I would imagine the same is true with men, that they have that experience where they wouldn't think to reach out to a group of men or women. And this is where I would encourage you to challenge yourself to find one that feels somewhat aligned and dive in, practice, wade in, maybe not dive in, wade in. Stick your toe in the water, see how it feels, and keep wading in until it does feel like it has healed that wound, because this is going to create such support for your polarized dynamics as well, that you get to come with more clarity in this way too.
Yeah, so there's availability for them to heal their brotherhood or sisterhood wound.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we both have women's groups. We've got a co-ed call coming up. There's just benefit in doing lots of different types of groups. So I just wanted to put that out there as my own experience, that was not something that I was taught to trust, was to reach out to a group of women. Until I started doing it and realizing the value of it, I did not think that I was missing out on it.
Well, when you can find people that you really trust and that are aligned, it's a different experience than just random women who you think you're supposed to be friends with, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Now I feel done.
Amazing. Okay. So Courtney, if the people want more from you, obviously they can come to our call on the 19th.
Yes.
And get support from both of us at the same time, which we're stoked to do.
Yeah.
And if they want to just work with you, where do they find you?
Yeah. Well, funny enough, right now I have just opened up my mastermind. It's called the Queen's Cabinet, which I love the idea of just having this group of supportive advisees, not to give you advice, but just to have your back and to let you have that space of trusted accountability as a woman, what that looks like, and also the safe space to work with your emotions in a different way than maybe you've had in the past. So that is a really fun offering that I have. And I've got one-on-one time. I do have intensive sessions that have been really fun. I have really had a lot of fun with that. So anything that you are needing some extra eyes on, we can kind of get some laser focus on there. And if you choose to move into a program like Arise or Nourished, which is more body-based and more health and nutrition focused, or Arise is more of the relationship container, healing the relationship that you have with masculine energy personally and at large. That fee goes into the program itself. So I'm having a lot of fun with the intensive sessions and with the mastermind style. So if you're looking for a group option or a single option, that is what I have. And the call on the 19th, which I'm super, super excited about. In case you guys haven't noticed, we're really excited about it.
That'd be so great.
Yeah. What about you, Bree? What do you have open right now? I know you're really good about rotating what you've got.
Yeah, lots of things. I also have a mastermind open, but it almost a similar intention, but different, because I work with women who are business owners on embracing and leading with their feminine and being in healthy relationships and, growing their emotional intelligence, their spiritual connection, their feminine energy, their pleasure, all these things. So Magnetic, the mastermind starts mid to late May. And it is a group of all female entrepreneurs. And we meet every other week. You ask, and any question is within bounds around relationship, pleasure, business, marketing, sales, anything. And you get
genius at
person. Yeah, as a whole person. In my experience, when women drop out of their power in business, it's because of relationship. It's because of trauma. It's because of something's off in their spiritual connection, whatever it might be. So it's where you come to get nourished as women and lead your business. There'll be a link in the show notes for all of our stuff, but that'll be there too. And then I also have one-to-one spots open. So if you're wanting consistent support in a 4-month container, I would love to help you. And you can just apply via the link in the show notes to do one-to-one work together.
Love it. Love it. And yeah, you are a genius. I am so excited for these female entrepreneurs who are stepping into magnetic. Yeah.
Likewise.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. It's so fun getting to work with other people that are in a similar space, and it can be so healing and so transformative in and of itself. So we've got lots of options for you people.
Yeah. Well, we're so happy you're here. If you love the episode, please share it with somebody that you want to win in relationship. Yeah. And if you don't follow us on TikTok, get over there. Follow us on the TikTok. And we love your positive comments. We read all the comments. And so when you leave something that's saying it's resonating or you appreciate it, Courtney and I, that's why we screenshot them and share them on our Instagrams, which are also in the show notes. We just love it. So thank you for all of your positive feedback.
Yeah, it does feel good to have that support.
All right. We will see you guys next week.